It's Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm dialing in from Toronto headquarters. I'm Neil Modi, and my regular co-host, Phil Emery from St. John's, is away today, so it's just me and the guest today. So please send your comments and questions to at Song Talk Radio on Facebook or Instagram, or feedback at songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, find links to resources we mention, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. Tonight, we're very happy to welcome back to the show singer-songwriter Roger Beckett. How are you doing, Roger?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you back on the show. It has been truly a hot minute since you've been with us on the podcast. We will put a link, perhaps, if we can dig it up, to Roger's previous appearance on the show, which was quite a while back, way at the beginning of our podcast many years ago. And just a little bit about Roger. Roger Beckett is a singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, producer, community builder, and artist manager from Pickering, Ontario. He's written and had songs released in various genres: Fade Away in country, 7 Billion in pop, with Canadian and U.S. songwriters and artists. He has also performed at various venues in Toronto and at the Bluebird and Commodore in Nashville. Roger is a past coordinator for 11 years of the Toronto chapter of the Nashville Songwriters Association International. He currently has a new project, RoBeck, through which he has released 4 tracks, including the latest one, 51, which is topical and very relevant to the existential times that we find ourselves in. Welcome back to the show, Roger.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. All right, so let's get started by listening to Roger's new song. This is called 51. And remember, you can find the lyric sheet on the show post at songtalk.ca to follow along. Here we go.
You got your side, I've got mine. While we're standing parallel at the 49, helped you through those fiery nights, wiped those teardrops when you cried, fought on that beach with you in 44. Now you don't love me anymore. You got your flag, I've got mine. And while you wave yours all the time, I don't wear mine on my sleeve, red and white, the maple leaf. But now you're breaking down my door, 'cause you don't love me anymore. What have I ever done to you that you'd break my heart into a billion little pieces shattered in the snow? What are we fighting for? You don't love me anymore. You've got your life, I've got mine. We've been together for such a long, long time, but now I'm paying the price for saying sorry and being nice. How I hate to see you go, but you don't love me anymore. What have I ever done to you that you'd break my heart into a billion little pieces shattered in the snow? What are we fighting for? You don't love me anymore. Poured your whiskey down the drain, swore I'd never drink again anything with that southern charm. What have I ever done to you that you'd break my heart into a billion little pieces shattered in the snow? What are we fighting for? You don't love me anymore. What are we fighting for? When it's all said and done, there's not a snowball's chance in hell I'll ever be your 51. But I hope someday we can be friends again.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Such a fantastic country vibe, and like you say, like you're multi-genre. You go from country to pop. Should we do some rock and everything else? What does it take for you to say I'm gonna sit down and write a country song, or do you just write songs and it happens to come out country?
Yeah, it depends because sometimes, like, I'd write by myself. A lot of times I write on my own. But if I'm writing with an artist, I will write typically what they want to write. Like, I've written many times in Nashville, in Canada too. And if I'm writing with a country artist, then we write a country song. If I'm writing with a pop artist, we'll write a pop song.
Okay.
When I'm writing, they typically will start off almost like in a singer-songwriter type style. And then as the song progresses, I'm thinking, like, yeah, this may sound great as a pop song, or maybe like a synth pop song, or this is like a dance song. Because I think in songwriting, different genres, for I don't like to think about genres, but
No, I know.
the industry does. So when you think about genres that way, certain material lends itself to certain genres better than kind of others, right? I mean, you see, like in country, you'll find some very specific things that lend itself to the country genre as opposed to other genres.
Right. And so 51, this song is written by you solo. Like you didn't have a co-writer on this song.
No, I wrote it all by myself, and the what's this called? Yeah, I have like bits and pieces of the song together, and I just put it all together. I wrote it, I rewrote it over many days, and that's typically how I would write. How I write anyway. I like write and then rewrite. I don't tend to edit when I'm writing. I tend to edit afterwards.
Okay.
But I write many lines for the line, and then I'll like find one line. So I have multiple lines for each line.
Right. Wait, but you let yourself get through a draft song fairly quickly.
Yeah, I like I always write that way, where it's kind of the first time I write something is like very organic. So there's no. It's like you don't want to get your head get in the way of the song. So yeah, right. So I just write them, and many times I will have an idea. Sometimes I'll just sit with the guitar or piano or something and just try something that I like. Land on something that maybe I like, and sometimes you find something that you don't like at all. But what I would normally do is sit there, have an idea. This one was kind of a lot easier, I would say, to write because I already knew what I wanted to write about.
Is that atypical for you, or?
A lot of times, yes, because I have like tons of stuff in the titles and ideas that I have in my kind of phone, and I write them on pieces of paper and all kinds of stuff as soon as the idea comes. But like I'm not one of those people who there are people who like to write. They have like a what would I say, or schedule, and they sit in this, they go to a certain place, or they have like a certain area in their home, or where they write all the time, and they write at a certain time of day, and they're the same day, like they have like a routine. And you'll see that a lot in songwriting books and those type of things, right, where they keep telling you like kind of a discipline as a songwriter.
Discipline,
I can't write like that.
Okay.
Because I'm writing like all the time. Like, and when I mean by that, it's like it's weird because it's like almost because like I'm writing in my sleep sometimes. Because like when I wake up, I got all these ideas in my head. That's why on my sort of on my bedside table, I actually have pen and paper and all that. So I get up in the morning and I write down stuff that I like.
Yeah.
It's very strange. So I don't really have a routine. Like, oh, I write this. I'm waiting for something. I think after a while you're kind of tuned in as a songwriter after writing a lot for a long time. you pick up all these things. I'm sure we've all been in those situations where we're having a conversation, or you overhear somebody talking, and you're like, "Oh, that's a great line. I can use that." And
Yeah, exactly.
you write that down, right? So there are ideas everywhere, and typically, I would have like if I have a specific thing that I want to write about, I'd write, or I'd go check my phone, and I have I don't know, pages and pages of stuff in there.
Yeah, and then that really is the key. Is if you have that kind of little spark of something to jot it down, and then acknowledge, number one, that it's something that's worth pursuing, it's worth developing. But
absolutely,
you have to sort of put it into your consciousness by writing it down and making a note of it, and then you can come back to it later and make it work. But you're absolutely right that sometimes you hear an interesting little phrase and you jot it down, but you don't really know what the context of it is. Like, what the context of it is, maybe in the conversation you heard it in, but as far as if you're going to twist it into something else for a song, you don't quite know what that song might be. You just might know that it's a cool sounding phrase.
Yeah, but many times what I'll do is, because I'll sometimes forget, a lot of times I'll forget.
Yeah.
I'll write a song and then I'll write a word or a phrase or a sentence down, or some idea or something, I heard in the news or online, or something somewhere that, triggers something in you. And if I don't write it down, I'll probably forget it. And it's like almost like these things are floating, and then they just pass by you. And if you don't grab it at that time, it's gone. But you never get it again. Because I've done that many times. I've tried to think like, what was I thinking about, and I can't. So it's like it's gone, right? So, but going back to what you were saying about if I have a line or an idea or something, what I will generally tend to do is, because I know I will forget the context that I actually heard that in or something. So in that very instance, when I'm writing that phrase or line or a title or something, I also put the idea. I actually expand on the idea. So I'd like, say I've read it. It's like, oh, it doesn't make a great title. I read a title, but I will write the context of what that title is in. So then next time I come to it, I have an idea like, oh yeah, I got that, but it was actually about this at that time. I mean, it may change, but at least I got somewhere to start. Otherwise, I'll just get stuck. I'll have like a title, and I'm like, okay, what is this title about now? Because I forgot the context that I was going to actually write. So I will always typically do that. I will not just write a phrase or something. I will like write, this is about this, or do more research on this, or something like that.
Yeah. The times I've done that, where I've heard a phrase and I've jotted it down, I've always, maybe not immediately, but at some point, I think to myself, what does that mean, devoid of the context that it originally was? Like, maybe I can spin that into something else that's more personal to me, or it reflects some other aspect of my life or something like that. That maybe is more or less meaningful. It's still meaningful in that way, but it was, obviously it was meaningful in the original context it was in. But sometimes it's just a phrase that you can then reemploy.
You may even use that in another song somewhere else too.
Yeah,
right? That's part
absolutely. So let's talk about the process behind 51 then. So you said you got through a draft of this song, and then you edited some. I really like the fact that you really considered your ending. Even on the lyric sheet, you've got an explicit outro that is different than the chorus, and then you've got a final tag at the end, and it really brings the whole song to a closure and to a final place. And it brings the title in where you didn't even have the title anywhere in your chorus or anywhere else in the song.
Yeah. So, what I try to do, what I try to do always, it doesn't always work. But with this specific song, I had like ideas within the song that I wanted to actually use. So because it's so topical and there's so much stuff in the news, and I was like, oh my God, this is like a wealth of information here, right? And songs are about emotion. If they don't invoke emotion in somebody, then you have to go like kind of rewrite your song in a way, because it's not working, right? There are all these kind of things like, songs are emotions put into words, and you get all these kind of phrases that you see out there. But if it doesn't invoke something in somebody, then something is not working in your song, right? And songs, as we all know, as songwriters, songs are a form of communication. we all have creativity and inside us, and some of us, and we all choose to express it in different ways. Somebody may paint, somebody may I don't know, make some, pottery or so, all kinds of things, crochet, knit, do different things. We choose to write songs, and that's our way of expressing not only what we feel, but maybe what other people feel. Right? We have a responsibility, I believe, as songwriters to give a voice to people that don't have a voice, and maybe and also to say things, and that's when songs become universal, because you're saying things that other people are feeling, but they don't know how to say it. They have no way to express it, right? They don't know the right words that we would say to that song. So as songwriters, I think we have that responsibility, and people used to do that, right, in the '60s and '70s, and all songwriters and artists and all were like revered because they were the ones who stood up for things. And so I had all these little bits and pieces of the song, and I had some lines that I'd been writing. So, for example, the previous PM, he had that line about snowball's chance in hell. I'm like, I gotta write that. So I wrote all that stuff. I had all these little pieces that I had, things about but I wanted to use them in a different way too, and that's what when we were talking about is because. I like doing things in songs. I try a lot to do that, is to have surprises in song, because that's what keeps the listener engaged. And it's like, wow, I didn't expect that, but something else came out, right? But it should be good too and have some taste about it. So with this song, I didn't want 51 in the chorus. Okay. And I've had discussions with other people. They're like, well, songs is so. There's all these things we talk about songwriting, about rules in songwriting, and some people say there are no rules, and there's guidelines, and there's this. So there's always debate among songwriters about all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm one of those people who's like, yeah, there are certain things because it works. It's not rules or guidelines. It's just that they work. Right? Through the ages, we've done things, and we do that
convention.
Yeah, melody, harmony, and because people's ears are tuned to certain things. Rhyming schemes. We're expecting a rhyme and it doesn't rhyme, and all that. And the listener typically doesn't know why it's working. They just know they like something or they don't like something, right? Yeah. So I think with 51, I didn't want to have, and I wanted to call it 51, this song, but I didn't want to put it in the chorus. I specifically wanted to have it right at the end of the song, which breaks kind of conventional songwriting rules, which is like, hey, you gotta have 51, 51, 51, like all through your song, because it's kind of your hook in your chorus thing. But because of that, having it at the end, I knew that I have to have like kind of multiple hooks in the song. So I had to have mini hooks and then drop the 51 kind of at the end as part of the structure. So that is why I have things like, what are we fighting for? You don't love me anymore. Those are kind of like little mini hooks, because if I didn't have that in there, it wouldn't really work, because the listener would be, there's nothing drawing them, nothing catchy that's drawing them to bring them right till the end. So that's why I used that kind of those mini little hooks.
Yeah, because if you didn't know this song was called 51, you may very well have said this song is called "You Don't Love Me Anymore," because that's the end of the hookies thing at the
and when I played
the chorus, right?
And exactly when I played it for the songwriters, that's exactly what they said. They said, "Well, I think the title's wrong." I'm like, "No, the title's not wrong." They're like, "Well, you should call it like You Don't Love Me Anymore." I'm like, yeah, but I'm sure there's like lots of other songs that it's a kind of common phrase, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
To me, that's that whole surprise thing, is that you don't expect it and then it drops on you, right? And because that line is so emphatic, the snowball chance in hell, I'll be a 51 kind of thing, that I wanted to stand on its own and not bury it within a chorus or within a line or something like that. That's why actually everything stops basically at that last part.
Yes, it's very nicely done that way.
The thing I wanted to tell you is so I had all these bits and pieces with me, and not all of them, but some of them. But the impetus to actually write the song at this time was, I wanted to write it at this time, but it kind of evolved, and it actually started. You've had Blep Hackham and Alistair and all from
for sure
Song Studio here.
Yep.
So the Song Studio folks, they actually have a thing called Song Call. Maybe you've been on it.
Oh yeah, I get their emails.
Right. So the last song call, in fact, the one that passed recently,
Hmm.
the song call was write a breakup song,
Oh,
but with some hope in it.
okay.
So I took that and I'm like, oh my God, I got a perfect song for this. And that actually, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to write the song, a breakup song, but instead, so that's when I talked about writing something differently, right? And this is as a songwriter, you always want to think about, you can write something, there are like, probably millions, I don't know, breakup songs all over the place, but like, why is your breakup song going to be different? Or how can you make it different or interesting or say like something that everybody knows in a different, interesting way?
Yeah.
And that's right. So when that happened, when this thing, I'm like, okay, I'll write this song instead of two people breaking up, I'm going to show two countries breaking up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that was my whole idea. And I'm a very visual songwriter. So, right. And what that means is that I can actually see the song before I actually write it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like writing. So for me, it's like writing. I'm writing a movie. I'm writing what's in. I can close my eyes and I can see the stuff, and then I write that. Right. So I had this picture in my mind about like this battlefield, kind of like these movies, like I don't know, all these big movies that have armies standing in I don't know, like in medieval times or something, facing each other on a battlefield.
Yeah.
So that was my initial thing. It's like, oh, we've got this line, and we've got two armies on the side, and they're going to go and fight each other or something. I mean, it sounds a little bit dramatic, but that was the thing, is that line. So I didn't want to use, for example, the 49th parallel.
Parallel, yeah.
Because so I wanted to change that, because that's basically a noun, right? The 49th parallel.
Yeah.
So I thought, why don't I but parallel is also a verb. If I use it as to be parallel, that becomes a verb. So I'm like, oh my God, I can switch it around, and I can actually say we're standing parallel to each other.
So is that kind of detail something that happens at the editing stage?
Yes, but actually for this song, it was a lot easier, because I kind of had an idea in my brain. I was actually writing that as we were going along, because with 51, I actually thought about the song a lot before I actually even wrote it.
Okay.
So I knew I wanted that line. I knew I was going to not use the 49th parallel. I knew I was going to use it as standing parallel, right?
Right.
The line that I did, so I wrote that, and then the song has to progress. So I'm like, okay, the first one's going to be there standing. You got your side, I got my side, kind of thing. So I already had that first line in my head, like you've got your side, I've got my side, and that comes from the battle thing, right? And we are standing parallel to each other. So trying to make that thing more visual, and somebody will get, because people know what parallel means. They're like line with each other, but we're on either side over here.
Yeah. And
then then I wanted to bring some things to know that there's Canadianisms in, but I don't want to hit somebody over the head and make it like, hey, make it too literal.
Yeah.
But so that's why I use the flag thing. The funny thing is, like, people talk about, if you're in songwriting courses or in classes, you'll always hear instructors or somebody telling you, write what you know.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a very firm believer in that. Okay. I believe a lot of times you should write what you don't know. And I'll tell you why. When you're writing about something that you don't know, just like somebody who's a novelist or somebody who's writing a book, because they don't know all the details of that, they have an idea, like, there's this, like, skeleton of a story they have. But because they don't know all the details, they have to go and do research now to make sure that all those things they're saying is actually lining up, and it's going to be like some fact-based stuff.
Yeah.
Just not making up stuff. So through the songwriting process, you're actually learning a lot of stuff. You're not just writing the stuff, right? So, for example, the line I have where I have, so I use the first verse is like the 49 parallel, but then in the news there's a lot of stuff where we've been talking to people like, hey, we fought with you, we fought all these wars with you, we died alongside you. Mm-hmm. So that's why I used D-Day Normandy. Then I had to go research to find out before I actually use 44, because I need 44 because it's going to rhyme with the other.
Yes.
Right? I need 44, but so I actually had to go research to make sure that is exactly when it happened. It didn't happen in 45 or 43 or something, even though I kind of kind of
Punched it a little
knew
bit.
it, but I
Yeah,
still
yeah,
had to
yeah.
go and verify that, hey,
Yeah.
it happened in 1944 Normandy, where we fought together, right?
Yeah.
So that's why that line 44 is there, because if it was 45, I'd have to figure out some other thing. I couldn't use that war
Don't
thing.
love me anymore. Yeah, yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I needed that stuff to rhyme with it. And then the because of all the stuff that we've already done with, helping to fight the forest, we said, Canadians have gone there to fight all these forest fires in LA and, things like that. So that's where those fiery nights come in, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
help
yeah.
you through those fiery nights. The wiping your tears stuff is when, when the Canadians helped the Americans with during 9/11.
Yeah, that's what I
We
figured it was.
landed,
Yeah.
we took your planes and landed them in Gander. So
Yeah.
there are those very things, but I didn't say, oh yeah, this happened, like very literal stuff. I had this very subtle ways of saying these type of things. So that's why I wrote the song with that. When we're talking about rewriting, in the line where I say, so there were certain key words I wanted to use in the song. Billions, I wanted to use. What's it called? For the billion thing is, so there's a line. I have the first line. The first time I wrote it, I had a line in there that said, a million little pieces shattered on the floor.
Mm.
And then I was thinking, like, how can I make it more Canadian? How can I so then I changed it to a billion little pieces shattered in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that was done in the rewriting stage when I went through all the lines again and like, how can I make this better? How can I clean this up? How can I change stuff? So that's what I meant by there's the writing phase, which I would just write stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go through every line, every word. I look at every and but and this and that and delete those things. And sometimes you delete them and it doesn't work, so I have to put them back.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So there's a lot of that rewriting process. And then I wanted so I have each verse has got a different theme. And then the last one was about we've been friends for so long kind of thing. Now we're like breaking up kind of stuff. And you've got your own life. I've got my life. We're separate, but we're the kind of same. So that was the kind of whole idea. And then, so that goes with the rewriting stuff.
Right. I think that's a really great process, and that attention to detail I think is pretty clear in the song. Like you've got those specific Canadian references, the maple leaf, the red and the white, the maple leaf. But I think your earlier point about writing what you don't know is a really interesting one, because you can do that, if you're sort of adopting a different character than yourself. Right. In that type of song. But I think it also, like, if you're in a position, if you're a songwriter, but you're also like living and breathing the politics of this, and then you might be more inclined to write a song that is more literal. But because you're kind of a little bit step back from it and you had to learn more about it, maybe that enabled you to sort of say, okay, well, what if I wrote it as a breakup song? You know what I mean? Like, or to intersect those two ideas and make it sound like a love song. Because in some ways, you're right. Because "You Don't Love Me Anymore" has been sung a million times, right? It is a cliche. You don't love me anymore, right? Mm-hmm. But in this context, it kind of hits in the right way, because you make all the political references first, and then you come to the "You Don't Love Me Anymore." So you understand in the context in which that's happening. It's the same thing with your title, because you didn't bring it in to the end. It's unconventional, but in this context, it works. It works because of the storytelling aspect of this, and the hope you wanted to bring to it. Not snowball's chance in hell, like this, like we're standing up for ourselves, right? And that's absolutely what it's going to be, right? Which is just fantastic. It's because there's multiple dimensions to this thing. Like you can appreciate it for the little details, the little references to past conflicts and past how we work together, and then what have I ever done to you? Like you can feel the heartache, you can feel the breakup, and then the final political statement. There's not a snowball's chance in hell, or Via 51. It's a great way to cap it off. And it brings the whole thing to a close. So it is very much a storytelling song, as well as there's a lot of little clever bits as well along the way, right? So I think it's great.
Right. And the thing is about songwriting, right? You'll often go to songwriting workshops, and you'll be told, yeah, I've been to Nashville like so many times, and I hear this all the time, like, yeah, you need to make your song universal, right? But you don't want to make it too different, but you don't want to be like completely different. And I remember when we're first starting our songwriting, like going to Nashville and even in Canada, and all, like, oh, I never understood. I couldn't understand that. Like, how can I be different but be the same? So because that sameness adds to the making it more universal, so that more people understand it.
Yeah.
And if you're too same like everybody else, then your song is kind of boring because it's like everybody else's song. Like, why is your song any different?
Well, at a certain point, you can be universal, but you don't want to be generic. You still want to be specific. I mean, when they say be universal, I've always, and not always, I now take it to mean you want to have references in there that, like what are we fighting for? Red and white, the maple leaf, maybe is specific. It's not universal. It's specific, maybe to Canadians, right? But isn't that universal enough? Like, it's a lot of people here, right? You know what I mean? Like, isn't it reference a lot of people? And but it's still, especially with country music, because country music is so tied to the politics or to the place or to that to that back country road or to that sort of thing, right? That it is in some ways not universal. Like, it's very specific to a time and a place.
Right, which goes back to what I was saying at the beginning about like some things in genres, some things work in certain genres because of the material in the actual song. And as we all know, the a lot of this stuff, like what we've been seeing in the news. So I try to use a lot of what people already know, especially at this time. Highlighted stuff. So in other words, I wanted to incorporate the whole thing of that everybody knows this now. Yeah, we're taking out all the American whiskey off our shelves, right? So, but I didn't write, we're taking all the American whiskey off your shelf. That's why I wrote that, put that in my bridge, which is very different, right?
Yeah.
And, when I say Southern charm, I think people know what I'm talking about.
It's pretty clear.
But because that's like a kind of a like a double meaning kind of thing too, right? So talk about, hey, that Southern charm kind of thing, where we're talking about, alcohol here as well. And the funny thing is, I have a line in there that says, about not drinking, and I don't drink at all. And it's like in the song, I actually have like I gave up drinking, but it's like funny. So this is what I was talking about. Sometimes you put yourself in other people's shoes, and you're not really talking about yourself. You try and bring the emotion out of what maybe everybody else is feeling.
Yeah.
And so things are that. That's why I have that bridge separately over there. And then, and it's basically, a very kind of Southern thing, then red state kind of thing. And so that's why song is kind of written and structured like that as well. So like, sometimes people, I guess when they hear you talk about the song, then they start realizing why you have all those bits and pieces in there. And that takes a while. And it takes like, you hone your craft over years and years, but it becomes much easier to write, but it's still like takes a lot of stuff. It takes a lot of practice and years. I'm also not one of those people who will write, I know people say, oh, I wrote 300 songs this year or 400 songs or something. I'm not one of those people who write like 300, 400 songs.
Song a day for a year. Yeah.
Well, because for me, I'm writing. I want to, like, when I write a song, I want to like write it, finish it, and keep rewriting it till I have it like as good as it can be, kind of thing. So I'd rather spend more time on a song than just churn out stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I totally get that. Yeah, that's a great approach, and it's one of those things too that you spend a lot of time in Nashville, the conventions, and it's not even a question of I know the rules so I can break them. Like that's what people say too, right? But you've found what works for you as a songwriter, right? And you embrace those things, and that enables you to sort of think differently about these things and twist them in certain ways, but still have enough familiarity in there that we know what's going on, and it's pretty clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I've heard some other, like, there are quite a few people that have been writing songs, but they're like very literal.
Hmm.
And I have people sending me songs that are like, everybody's creating some kind of song, but it's like after about, I don't know, like 10 seconds or 15 seconds, you're like, yeah, it's like, it's because it's so literal,
Yeah, yeah. And
right?
it can become pretty self-indulgent at that point too sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like it loses its charm, kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah, for
not
sure.
interesting. You can see people just like put something together and call it a song or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, I'm here in the band. I think that is all the time we have on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to Roger Beckett for joining us once again. Where can our listeners find out more about you and hear some more of your songs?
Oh, I'm on, all my stuff is on the streaming services, Spotify and Apple Music, YouTube as well, and my website rogerbeckett.com. I have a website there, so where I post videos and things like that, and I have videos of songs I've written with other artists as well on my website too. So
Cool.
yeah, I'm on the usual social media places.
Right on. Okay, perfect. And we'll link to that from our show post for this episode. And we want to hear from you too, so please send your comments on Facebook or Instagram to @SongTalkRadio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes, and subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. And please support us at our Patreon page. The link is on the website. And you can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page on the website. And please join us at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. Whether you're in Toronto for our in-person meetups or anywhere in the world for our online meetups, it's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup, bring a song and a lyric sheet, and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. If Phil were here, he'd say you can follow him at philemery.ca. And Roger, what's your favorite social media channel? Where do you post the most?
I would say Facebook. I mean,
Uh-huh.
the funny thing is though, is if it wasn't for music, I probably wouldn't be using social media at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I don't actually like social media because there's so much of, like, I don't know. I just don't like it. It takes too much of time, and unless I would say your livelihood depends on social media, that's like a marketing tool, and that's where you kind of you earn your money so you can look after your family or something.
Yeah.
I can understand that, but otherwise, if it wasn't for music, I would have absolutely no use for social media.
Fair enough. I can totally appreciate that. Okay. Be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, and keep on writing. That's a cut. Awesome. That's how I found out about this song, is your post on social media. So yeah.
Yeah, I post because here's the thing, right? With social media, I always think like, uh, what I'm not going to post something for the sake of posting. I'm like, okay, so how is it like what is the use of it? Like, is the content going to be interesting to somebody else? If it's just if it's for me, like, why am I posting it? If it's not going to be, and that's always been my challenge, like, what content can I create for other people to make it interesting for them, because they're spending their time looking at this stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So then the only reason I do this is like, hey, you know what? I don't have a publicist. I don't have all this stuff. I just put it there just to tell people, like, hey, my song's there. I don't tell people, go listen, do this, do that. I'm like, my song is available. That's all I'm telling people, right? If they choose to go listen, I have friends and like all from college and school and all over the world, and typically they'll all go and listen to my song or something like that and give me some feedback and say how they like it or it's terrible or whatever, and they'll say something.
Oh, not.
But really is like, I'm not doing any like publicity for telling people. So I'm just like, it's there. And when you think about it, and I tell people about this, like, after going to Nashville for so many years, like we'll go 3-4 times a year. In fact, the last time I was on your show, that was in 2014,
yes.
right?
A while back.
I actually had driven back from Nashville. I hadn't even come home. On my way home from Nashville,
oh, really?
I actually came to the Song Talk studios at Ryerson.
Yeah.
Played my 3 songs. I hadn't even gone back home, so I've driven for 14 hours or something.
Damn.
I came and did that type of thing. So I've been to Nashville so many times, but the I don't know, because there's and I tell people this all the time. There's music, and then there's the music industry. And they're 2 very different things, right?
Yeah.
The music industry relies on songs. No songwriter, no music industry. Right? So there's the music, and the music industry is kind of the exploitation of music and copyrights and all those type of things. So, and that requires a lot of money. And there's a lot of people put a lot of money in that. So you could write the best songs in the world, but if you don't have the music industry side of that, doing all the other marketing, promotion, all that type of thing, no one's going to hear your song. Right? So that's the whole difference. I mean, we all know, if you look at our social media feeds, like, we get pushed stuff. I mean, no one's pushing my song to somebody because I'm not paying anybody. But yet all these artists, all these, in TikTok, everything is like flowing down there. And I'm like, who is pushing all this stuff to you, right? Like, some algorithms are working on the back end, but people have paid for all that. They've paid to push stuff, to advertise, to push your stuff. So if you don't pay, you're not going to get anything, which is what I would call the music industry part of it. So that should never what should I say? That should not stop you from writing music, which you kind of love and do, right? But a lot of people tend to mix up both, so they never end up doing the creative stuff because they're too worried about the music industry part of it. So they never create anything. They're like, oh, I'm not gonna write my stuff. No one's gonna hear it. So they're already like, have these kind of, I don't know, these blocks set up before, so they never actually get to do things.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah.
So when you separate those 2, and it's like, I got all content. Maybe if I got some money or something, I'll put some ads, some Facebook ads, and so it'll show up on somebody's thing, feed or something like that. But otherwise, you have to get past the, I'm just going to concentrate on doing my stuff, right? And if anything happens, great, it happens. Someone listens to it. I mean, we know that in industry stories of, things that have taken years. If somebody wrote a song and they recorded it and forgot about it, and then like 7-8 years later, somebody comes along and like, oh my God, that's a great song. I want to record that. Right? And it's a hit for somebody else, but because nobody even knew when you put it out, nobody paid any attention, right?
Right. Yeah.
Somebody else can have it. So there are things of that. So yeah.
You never know. Awesome. Yeah, very true. Yeah, that's a great perspective. You gotta keep them separate, and you'll be happier, right? Like,
well, you always got to go back to what I would call first principles. You got to ask yourself, why did I ever start doing this when I was like a kid or a teenager?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe someone wants to be a rock star or something, but that's like, but most people pick up a guitar or something because they want to play, they want to do something, they want to make some music, they want to play in a band. They sound awful, but they're having the time of their lives playing in a high school band, which like everybody else is like, oh my God, like go do something else, and they're like, no, but they think they're the greatest. And those are the kind of experiences that you remember throughout your entire life, right? Whether your band was like, when you grow up, you may say like, yeah, that band was like terrible, but you're like, you had a blast doing it, right? And that's why we got into music in the first place. So,
oh, absolutely. I was talking about my band in high school. I'm not talking about math class.
Exactly, right? So
sometimes, but majority of it.
We should just do things for the love of doing it. I believe that when we do music, the reward is not the money, the fame, the fortune that you may or may never get. the actual reward is actually in the music.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally agree.
In the process, and you come up with a song, that's the reward.
Yeah.
The other stuff is all gravy.
You're very right. Yeah, absolutely. Totally true. Yeah, that's how I like to see it as well, for sure. Cool, man. All right. Well, great chatting with you, Roger, and good
Nice
to see you
chatting with
again.
you too.
Yeah.
And I'll come to some meetup. Let me know when they are or something.
Yeah, I'll get you. Yeah, we'll sign you up to our newsletter and stuff, and you'll be notified of all the upcoming stuffs. For sure. Okay. Yeah, if you can shoot that WAV file over to me, just WeTransfer it or Dropbox or whatever, and then I'll send it to Phil, and we'll get the thing edited, and we'll let you know when the podcast drops. Should be about within a week, usually Sunday or Monday.
All right, no problem.
And you can share it on your socials.
Oh yeah. Oh, I will tell them, because actually I found my old posting from the last one.
Oh really? Jeez, yeah.
Saying I'm going to be on the pod. I'm going to be on it like the next day or something.
Ah, cool. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to play 3 songs or something. I have some Facebook posting. It's amazing. Facebook never forgets anything.
Oh yeah, it goes by so fast. It's ridiculous. All right, man.
Okay, take care.
Okay.
Thanks so much for having me.
Take care, Roger. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.